Welcome to Unlimited Parenting. This is a show where we talk about what it's like having children with disabilities and or special healthcare needs. This is part two of the 10 steps to special education. So if you haven't listened to part one, it may be a good idea to just pop back over. But if not, you could probably follow along. But
Probably figure it out.
yes.
Okay.
Part one was making the referral to special education and getting that evaluation.
Okay.
So it's me, Allison, here with Melissa, the PTI director for IPUL. And we are just popping through these 10 steps to special education to make sure that you are empowered and prepared for the beginning of this upcoming school year.
Yeah, buddy.
So welcome in. So today we're doing 2 steps, just like we did last week. Last week's 2 steps were just mentioned. So this week for this episode.
Yeah.
Don't let them know we record weekly. Step 3, eligibility decision, and step 4, which is that your child has been found eligible for services.
Yep.
So I kind of wish these were just one step.
I know, because a lot of times even steps 1 through 4 get all crammed all into one, but steps 3 and 4 very much are.
Yeah, they really are. Next time, steps 5 and 6 are going to be a much longer because it's the actual IEP meeting and going over. But we're briefly going to talk about, because that's something you also need to know. If you've been found eligible, you know what to do to prepare for the IEP meeting. So we'll talk a little bit about that today. But step 3 is eligibility. And that's really the decision point of the whole thing. That's when you're going to find out, was I found eligible? And then what's the next step from there? And if I wasn't found eligible, what do I do now?
And to be found eligible, that's when students are meeting all those 3 prongs.
Right.
And I guess I would say a lot of times families get kind of hung up on that eligibility, that category, right?
Right.
Is it autism? Is it OHI, other health impairment? Is it multiple? And we always tell people that eligibility is what is going to drive your related services, not that category. So what comes out of those assessments and eligibility is what is driving the services, not that eligibility category. Doesn't matter.
And for someone like your student, right, he could fit almost 13 of 14 categories.
Absolutely.
But he just gets filed under OHI, other health impairment, even though he could meet autism, he could meet speech and language, he could meet
hard of hearing, all of the
blind, visually impaired. He could literally meet anything. So it's less about what category you fit in for that first prong and more about what are the services that you were found eligible for.
Yeah, because sometimes parents will call and they will say, we're categorized under OHI, but but he has an autism diagnosis. So if we were
categorized,
thank you.
They think that they might get more services under that category, which is not the case.
No,
it's not the case at all. So I guess what we're trying to say here is it's about what services you were found eligible for. So if you're frustrated because you think they need more, changing the category isn't gonna support that.
Right. It is those assessments and that drive those.
And that's part of the reason that we spent so much time in the last episode talking about that's why you have that meeting to discuss what assessments are going to be conducted, because that determines what services that student is going to be found eligible for.
Absolutely.
Which is why we gave the example of autism. Even if your child speaks verbally, you're still going to have an SLP there because that's just part of the battery of assessments that typically go along with autism.
Yep.
So if you were concerned about potentially blind, low vision, that's not something that's automatically going to come along. So you might have to advocate for that.
Yeah.
And that's part of the whole point of that meeting, is to say, well, this is what the teachers have noticed. Now, mom, dad, guardian, what is it that you have noticed?
So that we're really taking that whole child and and assessing. Yeah,
exactly. So eligibility. So once your evaluation has been completed and they know, obviously they've had the meeting about the assessments that they're going to do, the speech person, the OT, the PT, the psychologist, everyone's done everything. The school then holds a meeting to determine if your child qualifies for special education services under the Individuals with Disability Education Act, IDEA. And this is referred to as the eligibility determination meeting.
Mm-hmm.
I can't guarantee that that's what it's called in every state, but I can almost guarantee that that's what it's called in every state.
Yeah.
This meeting has to take place within 60 calendar days from the time you gave your consent for evaluation. I'm just going to pause here to say that's why we say so often that it's so important to put that request in writing, because it makes it easier to follow this timeline.
Yep.
So eligibility team will always include you, the parent or guardian, a district representative, general education, special education teacher, and the professionals who conducted the evaluations or those who can interpret the results.
And that's that key point right there, because there are some assessments that may be completed that require a clinician to interpret those results, right? If I get a BASC or what?
A WISC.
A WISC. I'm not going to be able to interpret those results. I'm a parent. And so we need somebody to be able to give us that clinical interpretation. That's why those people are there.
Especially because then they can talk about what supports might be necessary as a result of this specific score.
Absolutely. And I would just take this opportunity to also say that these are assessments that you may not be given a copy of those results because of exactly what we just talked about. You can't interpret it. So that would be, it would be pointless to say, here you go, this is your results, and me as a parent not be able to even identify what any of that means.
But I will also say that there are some people in this office who did receive their assessments results beforehand. So that's not saying
that it doesn't happen.
That it doesn't happen. But if you don't get yours and your friend did, it's not written into IDEA either way. But the reason you didn't get yours is because you are not. It's for the same reason the doctor doesn't send you your lab results.
Yeah, and some districts do, some districts don't. And again, Idaho's a local control state. So your friend in West Ada may or may not get it. And then, you in Periwinkle School District,
that's near Orofino, right?
Yeah, I guess. I don't know. It's just our hypothetical. Anyways.
Talking about a mock scenario, though, let's pretend like Carlos, he's in twin. His daughter, Janelle, she has ADHD.
Okay.
And she struggles with her organization and focus. After her evaluation, the team finds that Janelle does require specialized instruction because she has met all 3 prongs. Okay. So again, number 1, qualifying disability. So she does have ADHD, which falls under...
What? Oh, OHI. Yeah, sorry.
I love doing that to you. I will never get tired of you.
But you look like you're so reading a script. Anyways, okay. I will pay better attention.
And as mentioned above, it meets the second prong of adverse effect because I'm just kidding, affects her ability to stay on task. And finally, the third prong, she does need specially designed instruction for those executive functioning skills.
Okay.
So Carlos is participating in this meeting. He's asking lots of questions. And just like we mentioned earlier, he is helping the team to understand how this affects Janelle at home. Because that's the piece that they're not getting.
Yep.
So he could be saying, I also am potentially concerned about her vision. Because again, that might not have been one of the things that they assessed right away with ADHD. So Janelle has been found eligible, and the team plans for her next step, which is the IEP meeting. Okay. Now, in some cases, you don't need to know about this next part, which is the 30 calendar days after the decision. The school needs to hold an IEP meeting to create the IEP, because in some cases, the eligibility meeting and the construction of the actual IEP happen back to back.
Yep.
That did happen in your case, right?
It did. It absolutely did. Yeah.
But it's not
in every case. Again.
And I will say that did not happen in my case because my son was a gray area child and they weren't entirely sure that they were going to qualify him. But during the meeting, I kept expressing these persistent challenges that he had. And they determined that it might be in his best interest, especially when we're talking about the fact that he was 3 and it was early intervention and he'd been in infant toddler program. And that's why the parental voice is so important, because they were ready to not qualify him until I expressed all of my concerns. And then they did.
Yeah.
So that's where they had then had the 30 days after the decision to hold a meeting, create the IEP. And that, I think that is where some parents might get, or even professionals, a little bit hung up, because they're like, what's the 45 and then the 30?
Yeah.
Or the 60 and then the 30, I mean. And it's 60 from start to finish, but you could also have the 30 in there, but the 30 fits within the 60.
It gets, yes, there's timeline. We'll link the timeline. There is a quick guide for Idaho that does a really good job at explaining, because then we also have to add in school days versus calendar days.
Right.
That caveat, right? So all of this to say that's why we at Idaho Parents Unlimited strongly suggest putting things in writing, because again, it starts these timelines, and these timelines can get so intricate and sticky. So put it in writing, and then yes, we have to develop. We have 60 days to go through those assessments, and sometimes, like Allison is saying, sometimes these meetings happen seamlessly and don't have 2 separate things.
Yeah. Sometimes there's not a lot of, if you have a child with Angelman syndrome who is non-speaking at 15, there's not a lot of questions,
right,
versus if you have someone like my child who's really dancing on that line, but could really benefit from some services to get farther away from the line.
Right. So let me throw out another scenario, can I?
Of course.
Okay. So what if we get to that eligibility meeting, so step 4, and we come together as a team, and the team says, we've met 2 out of the 3 prongs. We don't meet all 3 prongs. And that's then when this stops becoming an IEP eligibility meeting. And that's when the conversation shifts to potentially support through a 504 plan.
Right.
So I wouldn't just say, like, you're not, oh, sorry, no special education, no support exists if you don't meet the 3 prongs. That's not the case. No
one throws you to the wolves.
No one throws you to the wolves. They shouldn't, at least. There should still be some conversation and continued support through different means, like a 504 plan.
Because pro tip, what you do is you take the eligibility report that outlines where all of the deficits were, or the areas of opportunity and need, and you take those and you say, okay, what's this adverse effects accompanying accommodation that I can use to craft into the 504?
Yep.
So if my son is blurting out in class, what is an accommodation that he can have? So yeah, you're still supported. You just don't require specially designed instruction.
Exactly. But those eligibility determinations have given us some really good insights to supports that could be beneficial for the child.
Exactly. Okay. And that's where you can also get kind of the, how do we do this? Like occupational therapy on consult.
Yeah.
Silas is really struggling with his handwriting. I've tried this. Can you just give me one more thing to try?
Yep.
So maybe Silas doesn't need 30 minutes of OT. He just needs the OT to come in and say, oh, well, have you tried this? And then bam, that's it. Yep. That's all we need.
And that consult can happen with the teacher, or, and it gives the teacher added tools to be able to help Silas.
Exactly. Because the IEP team is also considering during this eligibility meeting, if we're talking again about a gray area child like mine, if he does receive this therapy, if we do say, okay, Mom, we're going to give him this IEP, is that hampering his independence by doing that because he was right on the cusp of a skill? And now you're pulling him out of class, or even if you push in services.
Sure.
Either way, are you still making him rely on so it's really a dance.
It is. It's that least restrictive environment dance.
Yeah.
Are we stifling? Are we going to give too much support? Are we going to remove some independence from? It's a dance.
Because I would have sworn that my middle child needed one-to-one support. And the team kept saying, no, no, no. And it wasn't a resource issue.
No.
Because I know that other kids at that school receive one-to-one support. It was really like an independence issue. Like we're making him dependent on an adult to be there. And again, that's why you have to have these conversations, because every situation is so incredibly unique.
And that's why it's really, in your case, like you have such trust and such collaboration with the team, because you guys you've established that open and honest communication and collaboration from the get-go. And you're able to have some not super fun conversations sometimes, but they always have your child at the center of.
Always.
Right? And so
always.
You guys you've established some of those really good.
I think another key thing about an IEP or a 504, like any kind of team for your child at school, is when everyone agrees collectively to never take anything personally. Ever.
Yep.
I need every team to just agree to that right now. Like if I come in frustrated, maybe I just got off the phone with Medicaid.
Exactly.
Maybe I was just on the phone with another provider.
Exactly.
Maybe I'm exacerbated because this is the 9th time this has happened to my child, but you don't know that, and it's just overwhelming. And no one ever, it's just like, oh, I'm sorry, this is really hard for you.
Yeah.
I promise we're doing our best. It's never personal. Never personal. And I love that.
You've established that.
Enough about my child, though.
Yeah, sorry. I didn't mean to.
No. You know I could talk about my kid for forever.
We all could.
Let's assume that you're not my child and you have been found eligible. What can you, if this is your first rodeo, what are you expecting to come out of an IEP? So IEPs are always going to have PLAFs, present levels of academic and functional performance, or present levels of performance if it's a plop. It's
whatever.
Interchangeable.
Yeah.
We just say them because they're fun. It's just essentially saying, where are you at right now?
It's our benchmark.
Yeah. Measurable annual goals. Again, this next episode, part 3, is going to be really fun and really long, because we're going to go into this in great detail. But present levels of performance, we're going to create goals. We're going to talk about what specifically, especially design instruction, the student needs, what related services they need, that BI, OT, PT, speech, accommodations, and how are we going to measure progress? How are we going to report on that progress? All of that. And if you haven't gotten anything else out of this episode, it's just remember that you help decide what your child needs.
Yeah.
You are one of the 4 core members of that IEP team.
Right. But you are not writing these goals. You are giving input to goals, but you are not responsible for creating these goals. And I think that sometimes parents they call us and they say, help me write an IEP. I'm like, oh, slow your roll. Your team's got this. Your team should write the IEP. It's almost like the first draft. And then you get together and you're like, well, I don't know how I feel about that. Yes. Because parent input is required.
Because you're the expert in your child.
Yeah.
They're the experts in their field. You're the expert in your child. And you all come together and you work together.
Because
Please.
Can I give an example?
Please.
Okay. My child is a non-speaking individual. We know that because of his diagnosis, he won't be a speaking individual. So we try to very much, when we created his first IEP or one of the first IEPs, we want functional communication. So the utilization of an AAC device or the utilization of some hand signs or vocalizations. And it was really imperative that in one of the first IEPs, we had a speech language pathologist who didn't understand my son's diagnosis and very much wanted him to make farm animal noises. And that was a goal in his IEP. And knowing what I knew about his diagnosis, about kind of long term and what we wanted from a parent standpoint, I had to kind of go to bat and say, this is not an appropriate goal. And so, that's all to say, your child, your child's diagnosis, and you are the one that that can provide that overview.
Because the provider is thinking, when we're talking about creating speech language sounds, these are some of the first sounds we do.
Absolutely.
So let's work on these first sounds. But then you as the parent say, listen, because of my child's diagnosis, we know that that is probably never going to happen.
Sure.
So we don't even want to play that game. I want you to teach this child how to tell me I have a headache.
Yep.
I have a stomach ache.
1,000%.
He's never going to moo.
I don't need him to moo.
Exactly.
The mooing is not going to help him in any way. Right.
But I have a headache is. Right.
Yeah. Unless that's,
Unless
he moves when he has a headache. But
I mean, even that's functional communication at that point. Who cares?
But that's not what we were going for. Anyways, I digress.
So what if you don't agree? What if you're in this meeting and they say your child has not been found eligible and you don't agree? Or your child has been found eligible, but not for what you thought and you don't agree. Well, first thing I'm going to suggest is you call us and we're going to talk it through, because sometimes parents will call and they say, I don't agree with the disability category. And then that's when we're going to educate and say, and actually, I don't think that means what you might think it means. Here's what it really means. And then you're like, oh, great. That's perfect. Thanks. It's a 5-minute call. I feel so much better.
Exactly.
But in some cases, your child isn't going to be found eligible and you think that they should have been. So again, reach out to us. We can talk about dispute resolution options. We can talk about meeting with the team. We can go through all of that.
Some
with
potential next steps.
You always have options.
Yeah, you do.
But what can you do today? So as a parent who's prepping for the school year, you can reach out to us. You can, if you have an evaluation right now in your hands, you can review the results carefully. Highlight what you want to talk about. If you've been sent it early, highlight what you want to have removed, review it. If you don't have it, you can ask for a copy of those results prior to the meeting. I can't guarantee that you're always going to get it, especially if it's something that's not easily interpretable. Write down your questions before the meeting. That was the best piece of advice I ever got when I would go to my kids' well child check, because I get there and my brain goes blank. Blank. And then I go home and I'm like, oh my God, you have that weird mole I wanted to ask about. And it's like that. So please write down your questions in advance.
I have a running note in my phone. Just
exactly.
I don't want to ask the team. All summer long you think of things and
or bring a friend.
Phone.
Bring a friend, bring a spouse, bring a therapist, a community therapist, bring anyone who can speak to how the child's disability affects them. So that's it. We covered steps 3 through 4. 3, so I could just say 3 and 4.
Yeah.
Of the special education journey, determining eligibility and being found eligible. And it can feel overwhelming.
It can.
It really can. But you don't have to go it alone. We're always going to be here. So next time you're going to hear us talk about the IEP meeting. Depending on how that goes, it might just be step 5.
It might. Because remember, we weren't going to talk very long on this one. And we
can always figure it out.
Yeah.
So until then, remember, you know your child best. Your voice matters. Ask questions. And then, you know what? Give us a call. Yeah. If you still have more questions that you can't get answered. That's what I don't know about you, but I feel like that's literally what we live for.
Absolutely.
Thank you so much, everyone out there, for listening in. And know that if you are in Idaho or planning on moving to Idaho and have questions on systems or services for children with disabilities, please consider reaching out to us on our website at IPUL Idaho. That's IPUL Idaho.org, or by calling us at 208-342-5884. Be sure to tune in next time. Until then, this has been Unlimited Parenting.
Thanks for listening.